Welcome to Give Me a Break, everybody. I'm John the Carmody. Here's a question that may even leave you stunned. How would you feel if somebody were to cut you off? Think about this. As a police officer, how would you feel if the neighbor was living on your street next to you, and all of a sudden, poof, it cuts you off, and you're very ticked off about it. You're throwing the emergency lights, the neighbor pulls over, and then all of a sudden, he records you, and you get out your taser, and you tase the person, one in the front, one in the back. Then imagine as you were shocked to learn that all the charges were dropped. Well, tonight, you're going to witness a body cam footage from nearly a year ago. And in that body cam footage shows of a driver and a police officer. Now, the police officer was not in the body cam footage, but he was recording that he was using the body cam footage. Using the body cam. Excuse me. And in that, you're gonna see exactly what happened. Now the video's been shared a bunch of times, but more questions are being raised. And tonight you're also going to get to hear the driver's side of the story. Does he have a story is this story credible enough for the charges to be dropped? Here's Suzanne Stevens.
Don't you understand? Help!
A simple traffic stop in April on Corpus Christi south side goes from bad to worse fast. Nearly a year later, it's gone viral after being featured on the YouTube channel Lackluster. But to understand how we got here, we need to take you back to the beginning. The driver, Jacob Miller, employed with Lennar, was headed to work. Senior Officer Manuel Hernandez, who's been with CCPD for more than 10 years, was also headed to work, leaving his neighborhood. The two cars pass on a narrow road. Officer Hernandez pulls to the right to let Miller through, then turns around and follows him. Emergency lights go on. Jacob stops in front of his work site. Officer Hernandez approaches the vehicle. The audio is muted at first, but then picks up as things escalate. Jacob is recording it all on his phone.
Get out of the car.
I'm pulled over for him.
Get out of the car or you're gonna get tased.
You're not telling me why I need to get out of the
Get out of the car. Don't you understand? How is that? Don't you understand? Help! Put your hands behind your back.
Miller is tased 2 times, once in the chest and once in the back, then placed inside the patrol car.
I need your supervisor right now.
Huh?
I need a supervisor.
Okay, I'll get one for you.
I need one right now.
Shortly after, Officer Hernandez tells his side of the story to another officer.
Being in the neighborhood is not much serious. And yeah, I'm good. We're crossing at the same time, right? So I'll change to the right. You can cross. Like we're instantly, almost instantly, and then keep going. I turn around. Now I line him up. Like half a block that way, half a city block that way. And then stop it here.
In his probable cause statement, Hernandez writes that Miller failed to stop and resisted on the ground, and that led to the taser deployment.
Well, let's just do the right thing, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I'm taking you to jail.
For what?
Reckless driving, eluding,
Reckless driving.
resisting.
Miller is taken to jail on 2 misdemeanors and 1 felony. About 2 weeks later, the Nueces County District Attorney's Office drops all 3 charges.
It really just shakes me to my core when I have to relive that moment that I thought I was going to lose my life.
Nearly a year later, Miller says he released the body camera video hoping for accountability and reflects on what could have happened differently.
Let's inform them why they need to get out of the car. Let's inform them why they're being pulled over or why they're being arrested so that they can understand and be more compliant. I don't want anyone to ever go through that again.
The video is now sparking conversation here at home, including during public comment at a recent city council meeting.
Hearing the pleas and screams of a young man yanked from their truck and tased near their heart without probable cause for being stopped, and then tased several more times without resisting or fighting back, made me want to throw up. And we're demanding a review and a removal.
In a statement to Chris 6 News, CCPD says it's aware of the video and takes community concerns seriously, adding it remains committed to maintaining public trust. Our questions concerning taser deployment and escalation policies went unanswered.
If you're going to be in those positions, then you have to have self-control, and you have to be able to maintain that and use your power for good.
Nearly a year later, the video is now being seen by thousands, but the conversation is just getting started in Corpus Christi. Suzanne Stevens, Chris 6 News.
And the conversation's still going on as we speak. So what needs to get done here? Something like this should never happen again. And believe me, I'm never tased. I'm a celebrity. You know, I'm a celebrity here, for crying out loud. You know, me, I'm a celebrity. And believe me, I wouldn't want to go through that crap of being tased without probable cause. So yeah, like that woman said back at the city council meeting, the officer needs to get removed and proper training needs to get done. They take it very seriously, and yet no answers to the questions about the officer. You know, he needs to get removed. He needs to be retrained. You know, things have got to change. We'll keep you posted on the story and on a future Give Me a Break, we'll let you know what happens. Still ahead, our Give Me a Break feedback to our question on Friday's video about whether parents should be held accountable when it comes to school shootings. But first, our Give Me a Break timeline special, the Barney history. You may remember Barney the dinosaur. But now there's one YouTuber who finally opens the vault and gives us the details about the full history of Barney the dinosaur. And possibly another YouTuber before the Barney desk. Stay with us. Over 30 years ago, do you remember as a kid over 30 years ago with your child? Or do you remember when you were going through VHS tapes and you came across something, you came upon a white VHS tape that might have seemed familiar to you. So you pop it in and you realize it's Barney. If you remember Barney the dinosaur over 30 years ago, watching it with your kids, or watching it with your preschooler, you might have learned your ABCs and your 1, 2, 3s. But there are plenty of people that want to know more about the purple guy. So, that's what this Give Me a Break special is going to be all about. And it's going to be a new series, it's going to be a new segment of what we're going to do called the Give Me a Break timeline. It was inspired by the Dateline timeline, an old segment they did on Dateline NBC back in the 1990s. So, to give you a little backstory, but there is now one YouTuber. I was going through YouTube one Sunday, a couple Sundays ago, and I came across a YouTuber by the name of the Barney Desk. And I thought to myself, and I was looking at this video called the Barney Timeline.
You ever take a...
And I thought to myself, you know, it could be right about what's going on. But before that, there was another YouTuber that nearly cracked the 1987 code. So that's what this Give Me a Break special is going to be all about. So tonight, we're going to break down the whole timeline of Barney the dinosaur, from the VHS tapes to even the old TV show Barney and Friends, to even those VHS tapes from the 1990s, even the Barney voices. And as we progress through this special with you and your kids, you may remember where you were when you watched The Purple Fella many, many years ago. So, tonight, we begin with our Give Me a Break special, the Barney history, a Give Me a Break timeline special, looking back at over 30 years of Barney the dinosaur.
Plot, zero stakes, and absolutely... Barney the dinosaur is not supposed to have lore. Most people think it's just a kid show with zero plot, zero stakes, and absolutely zero continuity. but they're wrong. I think Barney and Friends follows a real in-universe chronological timeline, and I'm not talking about release dates or when it aired. What if I told you that tucked away in the background of these tapes is a connected sequence of events that no one was ever meant to solve? Today, we are doing the impossible. After combing through every single episode and video, every set design and costume detail, every piece of throwaway dialogue, and a few genuinely shocking details, we are going to reconstruct the full canonical history of a 200-million-year-old entity. And by the end of this, you're gonna see how this simple kids show weaves together something way bigger than they ever let on, along with a few implications that something is very, very off. Do I sound excited? Do I sound unwell? Good, because this is, without question, the most insane project I've ever made. It sent me down a rabbit hole that I did not expect, and one that I don't think Barney ever wanted us looking into. This is the Barney Timeline Theory. Welcome to the Barney Desk. He looked quite a bit different. So if you weren't aware, before Barney was a television show, he was in a short home video series called Barney and the Backyard Gang. He looked quite a bit different back then, appearing as a blue reptilian Hulk, before transitioning closer and closer to the Barney most people know him as. These videos also feature a specific group of kid-friend characters named the Backyard Gang, give or take a member here or there. They weren't making this in hope of getting it made into a TV show or anything, and these tapes are actually quite different. The main difference being that there's a handful of lore and mythos established here that's actually crucial to placing a timeline. One of these is going to give us such a headache later. It's going to break the entire space-time continuum, but for now, let's briefly go over each tape and the gist of what each kind of entails. Don't worry, this is going to be quick. This is just important fundamentals for our theorizing. There are 8 tapes in the Backyard Gang. The first 3 are the early run, the next 3 have a higher budget, and the last 2 are the weird oddballs that exist purely to make my life not as fun. Chronologically, in the real world, the first release was The Backyard Show. Michael and Amy want to put on a variety show for their dad's birthday, rope the rest of their friends into it, and immediately realize they've bitten off more than they can chew. While panicking in the garage, they find this extremely peculiar-looking Barney doll, and using their imagination, bring Barney to life to help them put on the show. At one point, their mom approaches the garage, and the kids quickly hide Barney behind a stack of boxes. If you weren't familiar, in the early years of the franchise, Barney was kept a secret from any and all adults. We can unpack the implications of that later, but it's worth noting this idea is largely dropped once Barney is greenlit as a full series. Eventually, the dad arrives home and the kids perform the show, while Barney stays behind the curtain. When it's over, he turns back into a plushie and assures the kids he'll always be there as long as they're using their imagination. I spent a little more time explaining that one, since most of the rest follows similar themes. Next up would be 3 wishes, in which on a boring day, Barney grants the kids 3 wishes that send them to wildly different places via flying jungle gym. They go to a park, a petting farm, and the moon. Clearly all on the same level of possibility. The mom comes home, the kids refer to the day they had with their quote-unquote make-believe friend, and we cap it off with a sweet song about friends being forever whenever they're make-believe. A Day at the Beach is the final release in this mini-arc, but oddly enough, it's the first one canonically, serving as a sort of origin story for the full Backyard Gang. Due to the more complicated video effects, the video is pushed back and released after the first few tapes. When the kids' beach trip gets cancelled, Barney appears to the full group for the first time, prompting what I think is an interesting reaction. None of the kids know who he is, save for Michael and Amy, and 2 of the kids are legitimately frightened by him.
See, if you're confused by this, I might be confused. So here's a question for you. Which one came first and which one came last? We'll give you the answer when we come back. Stay with us. Returning now to our story. To our special, sorry. Returning now to our special. If you're confused about the Barney tapes, referring back, you know, it was first the Backyard Show, then it was 3 wishes, then it was A Day at the Beach. Now, the Barney Desk has revealed the hidden mystery. Not even Dateline could even talk about. Not even Keith Morrison could even do voiceovers like this, or Josh Mankiewicz, or Blaine Alexander, or Amy or Andrea Canyon or Lester Holt. Not even Alyssa Lamb could even discuss it with her kids. I'm just messing around with her. She's a huge fan of this show, no pun intended. I'm just messing. I'm just pulling the wool over her legs, I tell you what. But either way, I'm confused about this, as probably you are. So, once again, here's the Barney desk. I kind of muted, and I'm also muted because of copyright violations.
Explain he's their friendly, real-life...
He's a dinosaur.
After the siblings explain he's their friendly, real-life dinosaur, the gang accepts him. Also, I always loved how in these videos they make him come to life with, like, wind and particle and these lighting effects, like he's a fucking Avenger. Barney's ancient chant, Shimbaree Shimbara, they use the pool to go on a magical beach trip with pirate ships and mermaids. They return home, Barney turns back into a doll, and the parents find real sand in a toy bucket that the kids left behind, which leaves them dumbfounded. These videos will be followed by 3 much more streamlined videos with a new, more purple Barney costume and a higher budget. Waiting for Santa introduces a new kid, Derek, who joins the group as they travel to the North Pole to make sure Santa knows his new address on Christmas Eve. This tape also establishes a new magical ability that Barney has, called the Barney Shake, which he uses to make things appear or transport them. Following up would be Campfire Sing-Along, where Tina, one of the kids, is now the primary owner of Barney, and while asleep, Barney calls them all to a park in her dream, presumably, where they go camping, with Barney Shake making another appearance. This video is weird and a little eerie at times. There's a lot of discussion about people being eaten or like dinosaurs eating people. A lot of eating things. Anyway, moving on. Then we get to Barney Goes to School, which is basically a backdoor pilot for the TV show formula. Tina's born on a Saturday and wishes she could go to school every day. So Barney takes the whole gang to the empty school building to roam around and probably break a bunch of laws, I don't know. This is also the best video. Moving on. The next release is where things start getting complicated. Barney in Concert is a film taping of the first major Barney stage show, recorded at the Majestic Theater in Dallas, Texas on May 26, 1991. Plot-wise, it's just Barney and the kids put on a concert, but like, the implications it has are massive. This video debuts the Barney suit used throughout the first 2 seasons of the TV show, and it also introduces Green Dinosaur Baby Bop, including the moment the kids give her a name. She's very terrifyingly tall here. Okay. The final tape of this series is Rock with Barney, and it's widely considered the weakest, and it's kind of an odd video. Adam's mom, that's another Backyard Gang member, lets the kids roam around a movie studio like it's a public park. I guess Adam's mom owns the movie studio. This video mostly rehashes songs and sequences from the Backyard Show and Barney in Concert, including direct references to the concert itself by the kids.
Hey, let's do that song we did.
What do you mean you know about the concert? Anyway, now that we've got all 8 tapes on the board, we can finally start doing the fun part, figuring out how or if any of this could fit into a coherent timeline before we move on to the TV series. As much as I'd love to say, oh, they can all just take place when they were released in 1988 or 1990 or whatever, we already know that can't be true. Waiting for Santa takes place on Christmas Eve, but it was released near the end of April. Release order clearly is not going to save us here. What we really need is an entry point. A concrete clue that lets us lock at least one video to a specific date, and then build upward using context clues. So I went back and I rewatched all 8 tapes again, looking for anything that could even be remotely usable. And eventually, I stumbled upon this scene from Barney Goes to School.
And I see why I'm eating this, because, you know...
Until you look closer, because the first is on a Sunday, and that is huge information. If October 1st is a Sunday and October 7th is a Saturday, that means October 14th would also be a Saturday. And why does that matter? Well, my bushy-tailed, bright-eyed viewer, because we're explicitly told that the events of this video take place on a Saturday.
I know it's Saturday, Barney, but
window where October 14th fell on a Saturday are 1983, 1989, and 1995. We can rule out 1983 and 1995 pretty easily, which leaves us with one answer. Barney Goes to School takes place on Saturday, October 14th, 1989, which means we officially have our anchor point. Huzzah! First one done! God, I knew we could do it. Let's go. Naturally, the next tape I figured would be easy to place was Waiting for Santa. After all, it has a built-in date. It takes place on Christmas Eve into Christmas morning. So my first instinct was just Christmas 1989. That's the closest Christmas after our anchor point. But immediately, that creates a problem. Because Waiting for Santa introduces two very specific continuity elements. Number one, Derek. This is his first appearance. The tape establishes that while Tina recognizes him as someone from her school, the rest of the Backyard Gang doesn't know him yet. He's not part of the group. But in Goes to School, Derek is already fully integrated into the gang. So Waiting for Santa has to happen before Goes to School, not after it. Otherwise, Derek's introduction doesn't make sense. Number two, Tina's Barney plush. In Goes to School, Tina already owns a Barney plush at home. This is established, it's already in her life. But if you'll recall, Michael and Amy owned a Barney doll in the first stretch of tapes. And after not appearing in Waiting for Santa, the doll is suddenly owned by Tina for the rest of the videotapes. If we think about this logically, the most natural moment for a kid to get a Barney plushie is Christmas. So I'm thinking, okay, great, Tina got her Barney plushie on the morning of the Christmas show in Waiting for Santa, while Michael and Amy still have their older Barney doll. But here's the catch. If Waiting for Santa was Christmas 1989, that would put it after October 1989, which is when we established Goes to School takes place. Tina already owns the plush in that tape, so that doesn't work. She wouldn't be receiving something she already has. So now I'm kind of stuck. Barney Goes to School is locked to October 1989 because of the calendar, but Waiting for Santa has to happen before that because it introduces Derek, not to mention Tina not having her Barney doll. I tried running the math every way I could and nothing lined up. Until I stepped back and asked a simpler question. What if it takes place on Christmas 1988? And the moment I accepted that, a bunch of things stopped fighting each other. Derek can be introduced in Waiting for Santa and appear naturally later in Goes to School. Tina can receive her Barney plushie at Christmas 1988 and still have it by October 1989. And it even explains why Waiting for Santa has that whole nice to see you again mood when the kids and Barney first interact. Because now there's a meaningful gap between the earlier 3 summer tapes and this one. So now we have 2 solid anchor points. Waiting for Santa takes place on December 24th to the 25th, 1988, and Barney Goes to School takes place on October 14th, 1989. Now that we got the holiday locked in, placing the rest of the tapes becomes a lot easier. The first 3 tapes can pretty obviously be placed before Christmas, with A Day at the Beach coming first, that's the first time they meet Barney. I feel confident placing that in the early summer of 1988, and I'm going to tell you why. In this video, Tina explicitly states she is 4 years old. If we assume this takes place in the early summer of 1988, she would logically turn 5 sometime in 1989. By the time we reach our October 14th anchor point for Goes to School, Tina would be 5 years old. And guess what age kids in the late 80s typically started kindergarten? Which pretty much explains why she's so excited to finally experience a real school day in that video. Check and meet. Where I had a bit of a trickier time was figuring out whether the Backyard Show or 3 Wishes came next. Both tapes indicate this isn't the first time the kids have seen Barney. Both are clearly set in the summer, and that's basically all we can pull from a surface glance. But 3 Wishes makes the point to show that the kids are so hot and overheating, and they're tired, and they're bored on this Saturday. Because it's just so hot outside, so they bring Barney to life to help them. So this is where I decided to do a little real-world research, and here's what I came up with. Barney was filmed in Dallas, Texas, and I feel pretty good about placing that at the in-universe location too. In a typical late 80s Dallas summer, the hottest stretch was usually early to mid-August. And because of that, I'm going to place 3 Wishes in early to mid-August 1988. That would place Backyard Show in the middle, partly because it doesn't look nearly as brutally hot, and partly because I spent most of it inside of a garage, which, if it was peak Dallas heat, would have cooked them into crispy tenders and colorful tank tops.
New Highly V5
Cooking the crispy tenders. But is there any more to this timeline than meets the eye? Yeah, we're gonna get to the TV show a bit. We're gonna get to the TV show a lot later. When we return, there's more of that. There's more of the 1980s timeline from those 3 tapes, and even probably from those from Waiting for Santa, and Barney Goes to School. So where would that fit in that timeline? We're gonna answer that question for you when we return. Stay with us. Back to our special. The Barney tapes were released in 1988. But we've established that this was that they were out of order. If you remember, it was the original order was it was Backyard Show, then Three Wishes, then Barney Goes to the Beach. But somebody has came forward to explain that that the Backyard Beach went first, then it was Three Wishes, and then it was the Backyard Show. Is it really confusing to people? Well, Special continues now by looking more deeper into not just one character, but the doll transformations and the costume changes from back in the 1990s. Again, the Barney Desk.
To place another one, Campfire Sing-Along gives us a bunch of context clues. It opens with Tina's mom reading her a bedtime story about camping, and then Tina asks when they can go camping. Her mom says, real soon, then tells her she needs to get some sleep. Tina falls asleep, and then Barney calls her and takes them to a forest. For starters, the fact that Tina needs to go to sleep implies she probably has school the next day, meaning it has to take place during the months contained in the school year. The second clue is Tina's mom saying they could go camping soon. Sure, you could go camping in the winter, but would Tina's mom be teasing an imminent camping trip if it was freezing outside? No less for a kid reading about camping in a grassy area? Probably not. That being said, the setting is presumably Texas, which granted doesn't get a lot of snow, but apparently Dallas does receive snow during January and February. It just isn't very usual. I have more convincing points, but I'll still keep this as one of them. So for now, I'm ruling out Janvier and Février. The most telling clues, though, come from their surrounding areas once Barney brings them to the campground. Look at the background. There are these big, dense clutters of pink, white, and yellow flowers. To me, they look like azaleas or rhododendrons, which typically hit their peak bloom in late spring. By mid to late summer, these kind of flowering bushes usually finish blooming into solid green shrubs. That alone points us away from late summer. Then we've got the clothing and the temperature logic. The kids are dressed in what's basically mid-season transitional outfits. Things like khaki shorts, long-sleeve button-ups, and when it becomes night, they throw on windbreakers. A windbreaker isn't a winter coat. It's that specific jacket you wear when it's cool but not cold, usually around 10 to 15 degrees Celsius, or 50 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit. That's exactly the kind of nighttime temperature you'd expect in late spring, especially compared to how brutal summer nights stay in Texas. So putting it all together, this one feels firmly like late spring 1989, which also, checks out continuity-wise because Derek is also there and Tina owns Barney. You get it. You guys are smart. So now we have a bit of a timeline. A Day at the Beach is early summer of '88. The Backyard Show is midsummer of '88. Three Wishes is early to mid-August '88. Waiting for Santa is December 24th to the 25th, 88. Campfire Sing-Along is late spring of 89. And Barney Goes to School is Saturday, October 14th, 1989. We're almost there, gang. We can do it. Last two tapes. Come on. Barney in concert, while absolutely making no sense in universe, is actually the easiest thing in this entire franchise to place on the timeline. The concert was held on May 26th, 1991. That's the date. There's no arguments. Is it weird there's this massive gap between Goes to School and this? Yes. It's a strange video, but it does still make some sort of sense in some way. All the Backyard Gang kids look noticeably older than they did in previous tapes, and even in the real world, Barney in Concert came out a full year after Goes to School, which, even if we're not using release dates as gospel, still lines up with the idea that time has clearly passed. Now, Rock with Barney doesn't seem like it matters, but it kinda does, because like I said earlier, this video echoes the plot beats of the concert heavily. Like I said before, Tina does say, "Left from a song we did in our concert," which strongly implies the concert is still recent in universe. Hey, Bop is also here again, who was introduced in the concert. That doesn't prove anything on its own, but for like the one person on Earth whose timeline had this video before Day at the Beach, explain that bit. But Rock actually has a couple legit clues worth pointing out. Barney says to Tina,
"Sounds like you've been learning a lot at school these days."
Which bridges the gap between Tina's relatively new enrollment in October 1989 and the reality that by 1991 she's just, a kid who's been in school for a while. I always found that line kind of odd because it almost implies Barney hasn't seen Tina in a while, or at least hasn't kept up with her day-to-day life. And that seems out of character because Barney usually knows everything at all times. He's like Dino Santa Claus. So either he's off doing Barney things, or maybe he's appearing to Michael and Amy through their doll like he used to. Who knows? They also directly referenced the 6 Little Ducks bit they did in the Backyard Show as being a long time ago. They even joke about how they can't really fit under the duck umbrellas they used in that performance. One more thing Rock does that feels weirdly important is it introduces a little girl named Kathy. A few other kids were introduced, but they have no lines and never seen again. But Kathy actually gets some development. Her whole bit is that she carries a teddy bear everywhere and treats it like her best friend, and she and Tina bond over that. If you haven't figured out where this is going, well, lo and behold, Kathy becomes a main character in season 1 of the TV show that is rapidly approaching. Now, even going to the same school as Tina, albeit probably in a lower grade. So, using all these details, I think Rock has to land in early summer 1991. It's close enough to Barney and Concert that the concert references still make sense as being fresh, but it also gives just enough time for Tina and Kathy to plausibly bond before we see them as established friends once the TV show starts up in what is clearly the beginning of a new school year. Also, you know, they're in summer clothes. And with that, that's the entire Backyard Gang era plotted out on an actual timeline, which, you know, I'm going to throw on screen and keep talking.
So, this is the whole timeline. So let's review this. Early summer 1988, we have A Day at the Beach. Then in midsummer 1988, we have The Backyard Show. Mid-August, early to mid-August 1988, we have 3 Wishes. December 24, 25th, 1988, we have Waiting for Santa. Then in late spring 1989, there's Barney's Campfire Sing-Along. Then October 14, 1989, there's the anchor point, which is Barney Goes to School. Then in May 26, 1991, there is the Barney in Concert video. Then, now in early summer 1991, there is Rock with Barney. So now you got all these here. If this does not get you confused, well, by the time that stream ended, you might as well be shaking your heads, not confused now, because this was the whole thing to start off with. And even the creator could even start scratching your head while watching the stream, saying to herself, what the fuck is that? Coming up, Barney throughout the TV years. This is where the timeline gets really interesting. It's basically because of the same school. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Give Me a Break special called The Barney History, where if you just joined us, we're looking back at the over 30 years of Barney the Dinosaur, who was a local children's TV character encouraging kids to use their imaginations while learning ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. We've established the timeline from the 1980s, from A Day at the Beach to 3 Wishes to The Backyard Show. Then it was Waiting for Santa, Barney Goes to School, Barney's Campfire Sing-Along. Then it was also Barney in Concert and Rock with Barney. Those are the 8 tapes that we've established during the 1988 time. Remember, Barney was created in 1988. But one YouTuber has come forward to explain, to give it the whole detailed timeline. Now we're going into the TV show, which may explain the differences in these 2 schools. I mean, this was the school from Barney Goes to School, and now this is the school from the TV show Barney. Can you tell the difference? Again, the Barney desk.
Show, because the more you stare at it, and that brings us to a genuinely important question. Is the school in Barney Goes to School the same school we see in season 1 of the TV show? Because the more you stare at it, the less obvious the answer becomes. In Barney Goes to School, we only ever see one room. It's big, lots of open space, calendars and posters, activity centers for painting and water play. It feels very early learning focused. But then, you jump ahead to season 1, and suddenly we're seeing way more of the environment. A playground in a very obvious Dallas suburb, a tire swing, interior entrances, and a classroom setup that's similar, but noticeably different. It's brighter, there's fewer posters, more random furniture, different window setups. There's also like this bathtub full of cubes. I thought it was cool as a kid, but now looking back, why did they do that? The point is, visually it doesn't scream to me as the same place. But then there's this line in Goes to School that's messing with me. When they first enter the classroom, Lucy and Amy have this exchange. So that's interesting, because that implies Lucy and Amy have been in that room before, meaning they're not currently attending it. They've been here in a previous year. And even if you can completely separate the actors from the characters, it's still obvious Tina is extremely young here. She's always been the little sister character. Meanwhile, Michael is Amy's older brother. This is told to us, which automatically makes him older than Amy and probably older than Lucy too. So for a minute, I genuinely wondered if Barney Goes to School was set in a different building entirely, like a kindergarten-only school or an early learning center. And then later, everyone just moved to a bigger elementary school for Barney and friends. But are we really saying that Tina and Lucy, who have a single mom, are going to two different schools when the season 1 school clearly still includes kindergartners? Yeah, I don't think so. Also, the Backyard Gang school doesn't even feel like a standalone school. It feels like one part of a larger building. Like it's almost a different floor. What if this is the same school as season 1, but we're just on a different floor? Because think about it, right? The Backyard Gang room is massive. It doesn't read like a standard classroom. It reads like a multi-purpose early learning space. The kind of room younger kids would spend most of their time in. And a room older kids might have used in previous years. Which makes Lucy and Amy's line make perfect sense. Because they're not saying they remember being in this school, they remember being in this room. And we know from later seasons, especially by season 3, the exterior of the school in Barney and Friends is explicitly shown to have multiple floors. So the idea that the Backyard Gang classroom is upstairs while season 1 is on the bottom actually fits extremely cleanly. Even the windows in the Backyard Gang room can help us here. The view that we see is pretty much surrounded by trees outside, which makes total sense if you're higher up in a school surrounded by trees. But you want further proof? Here's the part that really sells it for me. Check out this moment near the end of Barney Goes to School when the gang is leaving.
Is it all? I heard so.
And then, cut to Tina back home, holding the Barney doll.
Oh.
I can tell why I had to cut this out.
To me, this is one of the most damning
Copyright.
clues of the entire theory. Because if Tina takes Barney to show and tell, and she brings him into the school, then it suddenly makes perfect sense why Barney is always at school in the TV series. He didn't just randomly start hanging out here, Tina brought him. The school in season 1 is the consequence of Barney Goes to School. Tina literally introduces Barney into the school environment, and from that point forward, school becomes his home base. Huzzah! Check and mate, my friend! Season 1 more or less carries the formula established in Goes to School with a few changes. Some Backyard Gang kids vanish in favor of rotating TV kids. Baby Bop is still here, unfortunately, and we're grounded to this classroom where Barney teaches everything from letters and numbers to manners and sharing and, you know, whatever other moral the writers wanted that week. And if you're unfamiliar with this franchise, well, good job for watching us far, but you also might be wondering, where's the teacher? Why are these kids just allowed to roam around a school unattended with a creature of unknown origin? Is it summer? Is it daycare? And to that, I point you to one lyric in the theme song.
Barney's friends.
Copyright.
These kids are here after school. This isn't class time, it's the world's strangest after-school club, which also makes sense because these kids would not all be in the same grade. Michael is made of 3 Seans. So when is this? We know the events of season 1 have to land in spring for a few reasons. First up, let's take a look at the episode 4 Seasons Day. The whole gimmick is that the kids experience all 4 seasons in one day. Yeah, that seems obvious. Winter, summer, and autumn all require the set to get visibly dressed up. But spring looks basically identical to the normal set look, you know, minus the rain. Which tells me the default look of season 1 is already meant to be set in the spring. So, if our working assumption is that the school year begins in fall of 1991, because Backyard Gang ends in summer of 91, that places season 1 comfortably in spring of 1992. Now, there's also this weird little landmine. Season 1, episode 12, Barney's birthday. I'm going to ignore the actual debate of when Barney's birthday is because, that's something we do need to talk about down the line, but not right now. But the reason I bring this up is this episode shows us a calendar with Barney's birthday on it. And on this calendar, we see there is no month listed. Okay, how many dates are there though? Clearly, their dates will have to point us to whatever month has that amount of days in it. This month only has 26 days. No month has 26 days. The Barney team was catching on to us. They were trying to make this unsolvable, but lucky for us, no one could stop the Deskies. So, here, is the Barney universe operating on some sort of 26-day lunar calendar? Probably not, because way later on, Barney's Christmas star acknowledges real-world December holidays existing on real-world dates, such as Kwanzaa, which primarily takes place after the 26th of December, which tells me the Barney universe isn't operating on an every month ends on the 26th sort of rule set. So my best guess is the little umbrella stickers they put on the calendar. Those are basically daily markers, like check marks as the month goes by. They haven't placed the 27th or any day after that yet because those days haven't happened yet. Why would they put them there? And I'm just going to insert a little bit of a headcanon in here because I'm me. If Barney's birthday is on the 26th, then for season 1, I like the idea that his birthday is May 26th, 1992. Why? Because when's the last time the day of 26 had any importance in the Barney timeline? Barney in Concert, which canonically takes place on May 26th, 1991. I'm aware it's flinty, but this is a show for babies. They can't all be dead ringers. So anyway, season 1 is spring of 92, which leads right into the only home video to accompany this season, Barney's Magical Musical Adventure, which takes place in Derek's backyard. It's still sunny, but the atmosphere feels a bit cooler, and the trees are more full. I'd slot this right into late summer of 92, right before the school year starts back up, which means we're ready for the second season. Season 2 opens with Falling for Autumn, which pretty much sets the trajectory of the season going forward because it feels very intentionally set in the fall. The set has leaves everywhere, the lighting reads much more dull and cool, and the kids' outfits are way less springy. So I think it's fair to plant Season 2 in fall of 1992. But, because nothing can be easy, we've got a cast problem that immediately throws a wrench into everything. Lucy. Okay, this character is not in Season 2 at all, save for one lone appearance, which means, off-screen, Lucy has most likely graduated out of school and moved on to a different one. And it seems Michael has done the same. We know this because in one of Michael's first appearances in this season, he brings Tina to the playground with a broken arm, and Barney asks him something along the lines of how his new school is and whether he ever sees Lucy. Michael says that he does, and even mentions that his new school is close to this one. So yeah, Michael's also graduated, and now he's just basically visiting the younger kids, presumably because he likes hanging out with Barney, considering he's always dabbing him up. But if you pay attention, you might notice the problem here. Earlier, I was operating under the assumption that Michael is older than Lucy, and then I realized I kind of missed something huge. In Season 1, Lucy isn't actually enrolled with the rest of the kids. She's always almost framed as someone who's visiting, who's picking up Tina or checking in or helping Barney with whatever lesson he's teaching that day. I just never realized this, but this is outright shown to us. So now my logic kind of implodes, because if Lucy is older and visiting, that would make Michael being older than her physically impossible. So how do we solve this without the whole timeline collapsing? Well, here's my best fix. Point number 1. Michael probably isn't that much older than Amy, maybe just by a few months. And since Amy never carries over from the Backyard Gang into the TV show, I'm allowed to assume she's at a different school now. Or she and Michael had the most intense falling out of all time and he's legally forbidden from mentioning her, who knows. Point number 2. I think Lucy might have advanced a grade early. This isn't really a usual thing in Canada, at least not in the way people talk about it, but my American friends have told me this is a fairly common thing, especially if the student's really ahead. And honestly, Lucy seems like a smart kid, I'd buy it. So if Lucy was already slightly ahead, she'd naturally graduate out of this school earlier, end up at this nearby other school, and then by Season 2, Michael can also be there. Which means Michael likely graduates around summer 92, shortly after the events of Season 1, and are still close enough to pop in sometimes. And yes, I'm assuming Lucy shows up more often than her single appearance off screen. Also, while we're here, season 2 makes Baby Bop shorter, and halfway through we get the most lackluster character introduction of all time, where BJ just kind of walks on screen and misses a high five from Derek. BJ is the unfortunately named 6-year-old brother of Baby Bop, who is 2 and then turns 3 in the season 2 episode Look at Me, I'm 3. Great name. So Barney is 200 million years old and Baby Bop is just 3. We're not touching this right now, we just gotta move on. The next project up is Barney Live in New York City, which is a taping of...
We're going to take a break. Okay, so this is where we're going to stop here. But there's a lot more to come. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Well, folks, we have run out of time here, but coming up tomorrow, we're going to continue. Coming up tomorrow or next week, we're going to continue our special about the Barney timeline by looking back at the Barney concert videos and even the TV special aired on NBC. We're also going to be looking more in depth into the TV show. And for the very first time, and even some of the Barney Desk videos, so as this timeline continues, we're going to look deeper and deeper in depth as we continue looking at this Barney timeline. So possibly tomorrow or next week. So look for that then. So in the meantime, that's all for the special edition of Game Break Saturday going to Sunday. We could see you again for a special. I could see you again for Game Break Sunday, or possibly next Friday, or possibly on Friday when we continue our special. So maybe Sunday, maybe next week. Who knows? I'll see you when I see you. Follow us on YouTube and give me a break. Stop bullying, speak up. Concentration, not strength. No jaywalking. And as always, please take care of yourself and each other, and everyone around you. Bye bye.